This is Cornell Notes video for Lesson 2-5 Algebra 1 Honors, and I am Mrs. McCowan. Today in your notes, the topic is literal equations and formulas. Please write this down as your topic. Also label today's date and page number, as well as your name and Algebra 1 Honors. Okay, the first subtopic that you need to write down, or main idea, is rewriting a literal equation. So number one, we're going to write the equation 10x plus 5y equals 80, where x is the number of pizzas and y is the number of sandwiches. How many sandwiches can you buy if you buy 3 pizzas, 6 pizzas? So what we need to do is rewrite this equation for y. So I'm going to bring my equation down here, and we're going to rewrite it so it says y equals such and such. So I want this to stay the same because I have a positive 5y. I'm going to keep this the same. I'm going to move my 10x to the other side of the equation to find out just what does y equal. So to move a positive 10x, I subtract it. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other. Subtract. So now I bring down my 5y equals negative 10x. I always put my variable in front of the number, in front of the constant. And so we have negative 10x plus 80. Well, I want just y, so I need to get rid of the 5 in front of the y. So I'm going to undo multiplication by dividing. So divide by 5. Divide by 5. So everything over here on this side I'm going to divide by 5. So I'm going to divide the 10x. So this becomes y equals negative 2x plus 16. Y equals negative 2x plus 16. So that is my first step, step 1. Now I'm going to erase what I just wrote because I do not have enough room to show you how to buy 3 pizzas and 6 pizzas. So write this down in your notes. That's step 1. Okay, for step 2, now I'm going to find out how many would 3 pizzas and 6 pizzas equal. So we had our equation y equals negative 2x plus 16. So I'm going to put the 3 in for x because that's how many pizzas. So, and we already said x is pizzas. And we want to know how many sandwiches. So y is sandwiches. So now we're going to find out how many sandwiches with the pizzas. So we do negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 16 is, that's right, 10. So for the first one, we write when x is 3, y equals 10. That's the first one. So that would be 3, 10 would be the ordered pair. Now for the second one, we need to do the equation again, except this time we're going to put in 6 pizzas. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 16 is, that is correct, it is 4. So now, this time around, whenever x is 6, y equals 4. Okay, now I'd like you to try it on your own. You're going to rewrite and solve this equation. The equation is 4 equals 2m minus 5n. What are the values of m when n is negative 2, 0, and 2? So try this on your own. Solve the equation for n. So you need to find out n equals blah, 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 blah. And then solve for those 3 variables. Please pause the video. Okay, so to solve for n, you should have found that you moved your m to the other side, so minus 2m minus 2m. So now I have negative 2m plus 4. Did I do this correct? This is why you drink Starbucks in the morning. So I'm going to subtract because we have these variables. I want it equal to m. So I'm going to add 5n, add 5n. So I have 5n plus 4 equals 2m. So I'm going to solve for m and then put in my variables. So I should have divided by 2, and then when I divide this by 2, this equals 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now I should have m equals 5 divided by 2n plus 2. That should be the equation that you got. Correct? Awesome. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to solve for the first one. So I'm going to take my equation, m equals, and negative 2, well, these cancel out, so that becomes negative 1 plus 2, so 7, excuse me, negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3, so when negative 3 is my first ordered pair. Next, when, except we can't write it like that because we don't have an x and a y, so I'm going to have to write it like this, apologies, because xy, we write x is the first ordered pair, y is the second one, but since we don't have an xy, I have to write it out. So m equals negative 3 when n equals negative 2. Okay? Next, we have m equals 5 times 0 divided by 2. Well, this is obviously 0, so plus 2 equals 2. So when m equals 2, n equals 0. And then the last one we have m equals 2 times 5, which is 10. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. 5 plus 2 equals 7. So when m equals 7, n equals 2. Okay, the next one we're going to do, what equation do you get when you solve ax minus bx equals c for x? So all we're doing for this one is we're rewriting the equation for x. So I see my x, I have one there, one here. So I know that I can simply distribute out because I obviously did a times x and b times x. So I'm going to take the x out. So I just have a minus b equals c. Because we know they did the distributive property because a times x is ax, x times b is bx. So all they did was distributive property. So I can easily take it back out to simplify my problem and solve for x. Now I'm going to divide by a minus b, and this stays together. This is a quantity. And whatever I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other. So if I divide this out on this side, I divide it on the right side. So now I have x equals c divided by a minus b. And that is our solution. Okay, the next problem, what is the radius of a circle with circumference 64 round to the nearest tenth? So we know that radius of a circle, that we use the circumference formula, which is c equals 2 times pi times r. So when we do this, we're just going to solve for r. So we want this to stay on this side and everything else to go to the left side. So we're going to divide by 2 pi. Divide by 2 pi. So now I have rewritten my formula as c divided by 2 pi equals r. They gave us the circumference and they gave us pi, so now we can solve for the radius. So if we have 64 divided by 2 times 3.14, my radius r equals approximately, and I'm going to use my approximate bars, 10.2 feet. Okay, now we're going to rewrite the formula. D equals R times T if T equals 120 days and D equals 1,700 miles. We're going to find the rate, so we need to solve for the rate. So D equals R times T. To get all R all by itself, we have to get rid of the T on the right side and divide the T on the left side. So now I have my rewritten formula as D divided by T equals R. So we know the distance is 1,700 miles. The time is 120 days. So 1,700 divided by 120 is 14 miles per day was the rate of travel. Okay, now what I want you to do is try this on your own. I have rate equals D divided by T. If distance is 5,000, rate is 91 miles per day, what is T? Please pause the video. Okay, so you should have written your formula, rewritten it as D divided by R equals T. So 5,000 divided by 91 equals 55. So the distance traveled took 55 days. At the end of your notes, please write a summary. Your summary should involve what you learned, what you know how to do now, maybe what you reviewed. Thank you for watching, and if you have questions, please ask Mrs. McCowan in class.